We got your back. We got your back.
Hi, I'm Lisa Collins, publisher of LA Focus. Welcome to the final installment of the First Ladies We Got Your Back Town Hall series, sponsored by our good friends at Union Bank. Before we get started, let's just take a look back at a moment at what we've done over the past few months.
First Ladies,
we got your back.
Union Bank and LA Focus, they've come together to educate women.
We got your back.
We've got your back. All of us First Ladies are getting together to educate. Hey, E, what's up? Erica is here.
Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here, especially with you sisters. And me and Erica go way back.
There's a great African proverb that basically says if you teach a man, you teach an individual. But if you teach a woman, you teach the nation.
Hey there, I'm Erica Campbell, and I want you to join us for this amazing town hall. We'll have a conversation where we'll grow, learn, understand, become better, share with each other, and really just become our best selves.
You guys, please stay tuned. These town halls are amazing. You never want to miss them. Bye, guys.
We got your back.
All right. So Erica Campbell will be along to join us later in the broadcast. Remember, though, this is a conversation, and so we want to hear from you. So let us know who you are by entering your name in the chat or by asking a question. We have such good information, and as we all know, information is power. So let's get to it. Who didn't know that the Black church has the most land, the most liquid capital, and the most votes? Now that's power. It's what many churches are doing with that power and those resources that we're here to talk about tonight. Here to get us started is First Lady LaToya Stewart of Greater Emmanuel Temple Church of Linwood, pastored by Nissan Stewart, who is also a gospel vocalist and an acclaimed drummer who has backed the likes of Jamie Foxx and Missy Elliott. Among the church's innovative programs is an investment program for teens, and the church is also in the process of building a state-of-the-art commercial kitchen. So here's First Lady LaToya to tell us what she's cooking up.
Sorry, I have to come in. LaToya, you're muted.
Hello, Lisa. How are you?
I'm fine.
I just wanted to say thank you for having me on this panel, and I am so honored to be a part of it. So I'll just let you know a little bit about what GET has going on right now. We started and established a Get Debt Free seminar in 2019, which establishes and helps our community and our congregation to obtain generational wealth. We have never been taught that. We don't know how to obtain that. So this step-by-step course helps us to build and to know exactly what it entails to obtain generational wealth. It's actually started back up, and we have been doing it while we've been during the quarantine. And we started this last Tuesday. It's a 9-week course. And every week we meet on Tuesday, and it's different steps to, like I said, to obtain and get all of the information that we need to be wealthy and to know how to budget and to know what a budget looks like, because let's be real, a lot of us don't know what that is.
And need to know.
Right, we really need to know. And a lot of people feel that when you have a budget, it's taken away from your freedom in spending, when in actuality it's helping you to spend. It's helping you to place the money where it needs to be for you not to overspend. So it's definitely a great way and a great course, which is facilitated by one of our members who is amazing. Her name is LaToya Williams, and she's been doing it since the beginning. And we just want to thank her for that, because she really takes passion and a lot of time and effort to execute these classes. So that's what we have going on right now.
What's been the response so far of your program?
Oh, great. The response of some of the accomplishments from the program. One, I believe it was one course where there was $140,000 in debt recovered.
Whoa.
Credit cards cut up. You know, it was awesome. One person paid off a home. Someone refinanced a home from a 30-year loan to a 15-year loan. Yeah, so those are some of the accomplishments. And every time, like I said, we've been doing it since 2019. Every time there's some great testimony that comes out of these courses. So it's definitely been beneficial.
Now that's a great testimony. And we have a lot of great testimonies tonight. Our next panelist, First Lady Clare Anderson Fox, is a longtime advocate for food justice and is passionate about partnering for impact. She is married to Pastor Eddie Anderson of McCarty Memorial Church and serves as Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at everytable.com, which seeks to provide healthy, low-cost meals to families throughout the Southland, making healthy food affordable for all. Last year, the company got a $2.5 million investment to recruit franchisees of color, which is great. So let's hear from First Lady Clare about what she's bringing to the table at her church.
Thank you so much, Lisa. It is such an honor to be here for this very important conversation. I'm so honored to be here with the other First Ladies and our amazing panelists. For people who might not know about McCarty Memorial Christian Church, we have a very long and beautiful history in the city of LA. We're actually a 90-year-old church, believe it or not. And it was originally started as an all-white congregation, and in the early 1950s was one of the first churches to do racial integration work, which led us to be a predominantly Black and multiracial, multi-generational church, and really started many generations of our commitment to social justice, starting with the civil rights movement, and then all the way up to today, we're the host of Black Lives Matter LA. So a lot of incredible work is happening. And when I think about the topic, how are we supporting community members in transitioning out of the hardship that happened in this last year with the pandemic, I would focus in on a few things. One is just basic needs support, ongoing, right? I mean, there's just so much need in the community. Our hospitality committee, which used to serve lunch for our congregation after church before the pandemic, pivoted to become basically a street outreach team. And they're bringing out meals every single week, feeding the unhoused, feeding church members in need. They were able to deliver about 10,000 meals in the last year, which is really incredible. We've been offering bill clinics to help people pay down their bills and access city and county programs so that they can reduce their utility bills, credit restoration services as well. So everything to really make the person whole and meet those basic needs around food security and around economic security. Another really big focus for us, Lisa, has been on supporting people with mental health and healing. I mean, I don't think it's a surprise to say that the last year was traumatic for a lot of us, right? We dealt with the trauma of job loss, the trauma of losing loved ones. We were looking at a racial reckoning across the country. It brought up a lot of trauma for our members, and they needed extra help. People were isolated and really needed sort of that extra outreach. So one of our affiliated ministries is called Broken, Mended, and Restored, and it's BMAR for short. It's led by our associate pastor, Dr. Reverend Lisa Enders Tunstall. And BMAR is all about supporting people with overcoming trauma and coping with trauma and really healing. So in the last year, we launched a series called Overcoming, and we partnered with a licensed therapist, Dr. LaShonda Coleman, who essentially offered facilitated group therapy to support people in navigating these very difficult and uncertain times. We actually have an Overcoming event coming up on July 24th, which I would love for everyone to attend. And that's Overcoming with Joy. And we're going to be inviting some comedians to come along and get us back in touch with our joy and our levity. And then the other program I'd love to highlight, Lisa, is we've partnered with some folks to support specifically formerly incarcerated people. And when we think about, barriers to employment, formerly incarcerated people have the greatest barriers to really reestablishing themselves. I recently learned, Lisa, that for somebody who has a felon on their record or, coming home from jail or prison, on average, it takes them 20 years to establish themselves financially. that is a long, long time. So we want to give them as much support and love as we can, especially as they're coming home and reentering. So we partnered with a group called Angel City Urban Farms, and they actually work with formerly incarcerated people in accessing careers in landscaping and gardening work, founded by a guy named Mr. Tobias Tubbs, who himself was incarcerated for about 28 years, wrongfully, I might add, until the governor commuted his sentence. And he came home a couple years ago, and he's found great healing working in the landscape industry, working with the land, working with plants, growing his own food. So we created a garden at our church as well, supporting people that he's working with. And it is a healing garden. It's got a prayer corner, medicinal plants. We're going to be growing food as well. We're in a food desert neighborhood, so we have very limited access to fresh and healthy food around our church. So that's another sort of healing ministry that we've really prioritized in the last year. And finally, I would just offer that, recovering from the pandemic really requires us to think critically about the systems that are not working for our community. So our members have been very involved in advocacy work as well for policy change. They were very involved with Measure J, which was successfully passed last fall. And basically what that does is it takes county resources and reallocates them into the community so we can have more mental health services, more healthcare, more jobs, more economic opportunities, and reduce our dependency on policing in our communities, and instead lifting people up through those county and city investments. So these are some of the ways that we've been focused on supporting people with this transition.
Well, this is all very exciting. It talks about the power of churches and how they lean into all our lives at every level. When you talk about mental health, and when you talk about getting debt free, and you talk about being released from prison, all these have financial impact, and healing. All these have financial impact in our lives. And if we can get those areas together, we can create generational wealth. So Karen Brown is our next First Lady. She's doing double duty as First Lady of both Liberty Baptist Church and Judson Baptist Church. Her church's Monday night fellowship serves to empower members with financial information, job assistance, and any number of resources that help meet critical needs. She's also active with youth, providing them with scholarship assistance, college prep, as well as common sense principles which they need, and training. Karen?
Good evening, Lisa and panelists. Lisa, I just want to thank you for this opportunity. You and the LA Focus, We Got Your Back has been such a cool space to hang out. And this is not my first time. I've been logging in and just kind of creeping and loving the conversation. But listen, everybody wants to know, right? Everybody wants to know, where does the money reside? Where the money reside? We want to know, right? And so what we're doing, when I was growing up, I wasn't taught how to handle money, but I watched my grandmother save her coins in a cookie jar. I mean, I thought she was rich because she had so many cookie jars all over the house. And then as I got older, I watched my mother save her coins as a single mother and purchase her own home. And through that, I learned the importance of saving and ownership. And so when I think of this topic of, how can we level the financial playing field at our churches, and my church is Judson Baptist Church of Carson and Liberty Baptist Church of LA, what we're doing to help the people of God, we're helping them to be financially astute. A few things. One, we are teaching our church how to tithe and pay offering. And that's the biblical perspective. We're also practically teaching our people, we're bringing experts in the field of finance to teach us how to better be stewards of our resources. And then finally, community partnerships, right? We have community partnerships in that we started a shredding event in which we bring resources into the community where people can bring their items, old files and whatnot. Y'all got old files, you want to bring them to the church. And we shred them. And for a small registration fee, folks can bring their things and get rid of them. You can clean out a closet, a garage, whatever you need to do. And so those are some of the things that we're doing. So Malachi 3:10, is the basis from which we do our tithes. And it tells us to bring all the tithes into the storehouse, right? And so that scripture gives us a perspective. It says, bring all the tithes into the storehouse that there might be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, saith the Lord of hosts, if I will not open the windows of heaven and pour out blessing. Watch this, but that you shall not have room enough to receive it, right? And so one, that tells us to trust God's word, right? Because it tells us to bring all the tithes into the storehouse. Just trust his word. And then secondly, proving means to test. So we're going to test his promise. And then thirdly, we're going to have a testimony. When it says windows of heaven, he's going to pour out. Listen, you're going to have a testimony to tell what God has done in your life. And so that's what we're doing at the Judson Baptist Church. And that's what we're doing at the Liberty Baptist Church. And so I'm just excited about how we're going to be better stewards of our money and our resources.
All right. That sounds great. Now, most of our panels up to this time have been composed of first ladies, but you can't really talk about what churches are doing without the perspective of at least one pastor. And we could think of no better choice to join us tonight than Pastor Michael J.T. Fisher of Greater Zion Church Family in Compton, whose ministry and activism is engaging, innovative, and transformative. And he learned all he knows from his mother, who was a first lady. But before we hear from him, I'm going to introduce Union Bank Senior Vice President Frank Robinson, who is making his third appearance on this series and is committed to engaging faith leaders for community empowerment and the dissemination of critical information and resources to better the lives of constituents. Pastor Fisher, some brief words from you on what your church is doing, and then Frank, give us some of your thoughts about what you're hearing about and how people benefit from the partnership of corporate America and the church. After that, we can open up for questions.
Miss Lisa Collins, I always thank God for you. You know, you are respected, and that many of us in our generation, the pastors that are on the scene, we're here because literally you opened the doors for us. So thank you. And to all the panelists, to the first ladies that are here, God bless you all. The grace is upon all of you. And also to our wonderful guest who represents Union Bank. Thank you for all that you do and will do. At Greater Zion, I think we're falling right into the same vein of what you've heard so far, at least for the city of Compton. We're getting ready to launch out in July a small business initiative that's going to kind of be a Shark Tank-esque approach, where we're going to take 30 applicants. We already have close to 40 or 50 that are trying to apply, but we're going to take 30. We're going to walk them through a 9-class course that's going to literally step by step teach them how to establish their own LLC or their sole proprietor or their nonprofit. And then at the end of that, we're going to have a marketplace. And then whoever implemented the principles that we taught over those 9 classes the most will actually receive $15,000 to help start up their business. We're, of course, let me throw it out there. We're looking for partnerships like Union Bank. Hello, praise the Lord. To help match, you have not because you asked not. To help like match those quotas so that we can give runner-ups some money as well. We're really serious about jump-starting the economy within the inner city. We know that when these billions of dollars come down the pipe, that oftentimes they don't make it to where it is that our churches, I love what First Lady Brown said, where our churches reside, you know, they don't make it there. But we want to really try to fix that with our small business initiative. And then, of course, we're also offering counseling through our certified counselors through our JTCDC. And for more information on all of those programs, you're more than welcome to go ahead and look us up online at JTCDC1 on Instagram, or email us at jt.cdc@yahoo.com. That's jt.cdc@yahoo.com. So those are the things that we're looking forward to doing. I was nervous being on here with all the first ladies, but you know, when Lisa tells you to be somewhere, you be somewhere. And so I thank you for the opportunity to be able to say what we're doing at Greater Zion in the city of Compton. Looking forward to the discussion.
Okay. Frank?
Yeah, this is fantastic, and I'm sorry I was taking notes on all the stuff that's being talked about. First of all, we just celebrated Juneteenth, and I think one of the things that we have to take into consideration is financial freedom, and how do we recover, and how do we do well from this? Because it's important. It's important for me as somebody who grew up in the South, and I'm a native of Baton Rouge, and you see the struggle of your family, you see how they struggle, you hear the stories, and it's your requirement. It's what you have to do this. You have to make that legacy stronger and better. So I encourage us to think about financial freedom, and that's because of independence. And that's also what freedom is, really, is choice. I have a choice. And so, I'm not limited. So we have to get there. And I think one of the things that we talked about early on is building a relationship with your banker, building a relationship with those around you, and building that army that's going to help and support you. We all have that. We say sometimes it takes a village. Well, it does, but it also takes that army to get you to the other part, the other side. And we're talking about partnerships, and I'm going to keep my comments brief so we can get to these great comments and these questions. But, when we start talking about that, this pandemic exposed us to so much, and from systemic racism to a gamut of different things, that we need complete partnerships from private and public sector, from government, CDFIs, banks, private foundations. And one of the things that we did at the bank, besides this program, we launched what is called our Community Recovery Program. And it's a $10 million fund that we put together. And what we do with that is we are looking for organizations. It does not have to be a 501c3 nonprofit. It could be a 501c6, C19, but a nonprofit. And we're looking to first rebuild the workforce, small business recovery, financial security, that includes food banks, okay? And there's some other ones. And then, of course, racial and social justice. And what does that look like? And is that we just did a program on Asian hate bystander training, to train people around what if they see something, to distract somebody, to document it, and to really, not allow that to go on. So a lot of things that we could do in our community. I encourage you to look at our website if you're interested in even applying for a grant or request. Pastor Fisher, we need to talk about your program, because we have done things like this in the past, just recently, actually. And to bring about entrepreneurship and small business recovery is one of the most important components when we talk about creating wealth in this country. Besides home ownership, it is investments and small business. So, and let me rephrase that. It's not small business, it's just business. Because if you don't have a dream of making your business really grow, I don't know if you should be in business. So whatever we could do to support you, and if bringing those contacts for you is important for us and what we do. So thank you.
So I want to jump back in, and I want Pastor Fisher for a moment to just talk about the importance of first ladies and juxtaposed to pastors and how that works together. I want to hear a man's perspective on this power that we have in the room tonight, and the power that is really in the last 2 decades just really found a way to impact in a great way.
Well, it was one of the things that I spoke about when I eulogized my mother in Proverbs 31. And the most powerful part of that text is when it says, and then she is able, one version says, and she makes money at the gate. The verses before that says, her man is known. This is the Fisher version. Her man is known in the city, and she's also able to make money at the gates. It is important that the first ladies understand that they are way beyond just being accessories that just sit there with nice shiny hats on. They actually take the vision of their husband and they bring it to another level of fruition, right? They work it. God has given them an extra bit of oil, anointing. And I'm not trying to over spiritualize it, but he gives them insight. I watched my mother literally take the ideals of my father and really, with her grace and her finesse, get them further than he would with his rigidness. And that's what we have in this room. And over the last couple of months, to sit and witness and watch, I have sat back and said to myself, God, this next generation of church is going to go so much further, because now not only is the man leading the congregation, but literally we're watching help meet, which is what is in Genesis describing the First Lady as, come to pass. So I think that this is where we see the deals be made. This is where we see the grace, the finesse, the class go in and actually take the ideals and visions of our leaders through the pastors of their husbands and really take them further and take them to the next level. So I'm excited to see this.
Did any of the other first ladies have anything to add about what Pastor Fisher just said?
I'll chime in. Mr. Fisher, you know, you and my husband, you always are calling each other, bouncing ideas off of each other. I hear the conversation. So thank you for always being there when he has some idea that he wants to get out there, and you give him the feedback that he definitely needs. But I definitely do agree with you on being able for women to be able to get a job done differently than what a man would, because of the automatic nurturing that we possess. You know, it's a different outlook. I know a lot of men know what they want, but it takes a woman to help execute. And I applaud you for saying that. Finally, a lot of women are getting that attention that they're due, you know, but definitely. And we're there to support, not to overstep. It's a different thing when you work together. So it's a definite support, and we're getting that attention again, like I said. So thank you for stating that. I appreciate it.
Okay. Before we go to commercial, is there anybody else that wanted to comment on that?
I wanted to chime in, and I appreciate the words of Pastor Fisher with regards to the First Lady's input. I think First Ladies have a free voice, right? We're not held to the same standards that the pastor is, and we can reach certain congregants that the pastor can never reach. We have, we can reach out to the young people, we can reach out to the women, and then the seniors, we might have a little extra sauce with the seniors. And so, I totally agree that, that we're not the First Lady of the 60s, right? We're out there, we're working, we're making things happen because God has given us also, right, a calling. And so I just appreciate you for saying that, Dr. Fisher. And we'll continue to do that.
All right, we're going to head to a commercial. And then when we come back, Erica Campbell is going to join us. She's a First Lady, obviously. And we'll hear what she has to say. And she has a new album coming up this month. So she's not going to be with us long, but we are going to engage her for a little bit. We'll be right.
One of the greatest challenges for every small business, let alone a minority business, is access to capital and access to funding, because it does take money to make money. I was looking at different banks, and Union Bank was able to look at my potential when no other banks would lend to me.
Okay, we're back. And is Erica joining us? Erica should be joining us in a moment. Here she is. Hey, Erica.
Hello, how are you?
Fine. Have you been listening to what we've been saying about the remarkable input and impact First Ladies are having? And do you have anything to add to that, since you are one of the remarkable First Ladies in Los Angeles?
Thank you. Just a little bit. But what I do know for sure is the scripture says that God has given us everything pertaining to life and godliness. So God is not just concerned with our spiritual growth, but also our natural growth. And that includes our finances. We can't run our churches without money. People can't pay their bills without money. So understanding finances is a biblical principle. And a lot of people would like to demonize money. You know, the love of money is the root of all evil. Well, we don't love it, but we need it. We can't run our churches or our lives. And so to have a good understanding of how to use it as a tool, money is literally a tool. And when God has blessed you, God bless you, whoever sneezed. You need to understand that you are a conduit and not a container. So as God blesses you, it allows you to do more. I think our churches have gotten a bad rap when it comes to money. I think that first ladies have gotten a bad rap because, you know, you just come in with a big hat and not been a part. But there are a lot of first ladies like my friend LaToya Stewart is on here who get down and dirty with our members, who we ask them questions and we're part of their lives. And we want to make sure that they flourish, not just in the sanctuary, but in their lives. So that means in education and in finance and, you know, in their businesses and things like that. So understanding the power of finances is literally biblical. If we look at the scripture where it talks about the 5 talents, forgive me for not knowing exactly where it was, but God gave each of them something, the 3, right? He gave 1 10, 1 5, and 1 coin, right? And so the one that he gave 10, he did well with it. He multiplied it. He used it. The one that had 5 talents, AKA coins, he did okay. But the one that only had 1, he buried it. I didn't want to mess it up. I didn't want to lose it. So we have to teach people not to be afraid to invest, not to be afraid to take chances, not to be afraid to step out on faith and do things with their money that not blesses the church, but blesses their lives. You know, I've been blessed from giving my tithes and sowing not into just my ministry, but the churches that I've come from. And I've learned so much, and I believe God is a rewarder of them that diligently seek them. So even if this is new to you and you don't know, it's okay. You're learning now. So grow now, make the changes. If you seek, you'll find. If you knock, the door will be open. That does not only apply to the spiritual things. I'm happy for everyone that's on right now. I hope that you are taking this information and running with it, expanding on it, expounding on it, so you grow in the area of finance. So you do have a relationship with your bank. Shout out to Union Bank for even being a part of this. I think it has been absolutely amazing, this series. And I think that it is going to challenge us to do different. We should be buying more buildings. We should be buying real estate in our cities. We should be owning more, you know. We shouldn't be paying other people for everything. You know, there's a lot of wealth in the African-American community. We just don't know it. So as we get together and we partner with each other, we grow. And I believe that God is glorified because our heart for the community is different from someone that doesn't live here. I live in LA. I'm in the city. So I see what's going on. So to be able to be a blessing in the city that I live in makes me feel good. And I know many of you who are doing a lot. And, you know, hopefully we can continue that.
You know, I have a question. Because I know that I have been working diligently as part of our mission here at LA Focus to engage the church with corporate America, with the government, with whoever has resources. And sometimes there's pushback from the church with regards to teaming up with corporate America or the government. Let's talk a little bit about that, because I know that that might be changing. I know more traditional churches have a bigger problem with it, but what do you all think?
It's an issue of trust, in my opinion. You know, we've been jaded. We've had bad deals. People have had their churches and their land and their property stolen from them, from people who wanted to take back the area. I remember, I'm old enough, but young enough to remember when the 105 freeway came in and they were just paying people off and taking their houses and taking their churches. When you know that kind of information and that kind of backstory on the establishment, it's not a lot of room for trust. But here's where faith comes in. God never told me to trust people. He told me to trust him. So if God has called you to something and you know that it requires finance, you can't say, I'm not going to trust the bank, or I'm not going to trust the government, or I'm not going to trust the city. You have to, because God has called you to something. And so it requires you to stretch even in the area of faith. As it relates to purchasing a building. Me and my husband are trying to purchase a building. And so we've only been a church for 5 years. We've got over 1,000 members and we're trying to find a home. Well, they don't want to zone for a church, or, you know, a lot of just reasons. And so there's a lot of reasons, Lisa, that they just don't trust. And I think as we continue to just keep pushing and learning and educating and partnering with banks and, you know, growing in that area, we can gain wealth, because when you have real estate and when you have an understanding, that's not just money, it's wealth.
Well, again, I said at the beginning of the show that the Black church has the most liquid capital in the community. They have the most land in the community, and they have the most votes. I don't know what's more what could be a more powerful block than to have the most votes, the most land, and the most money.
We got to understand our power, and we've
Yes.
got to use it. You know, like I said, everything pertaining to life and godliness, right? And why would there be a distinction between the two? Because godliness and life can sometimes be on two different pages. They are connected, of course, but you need to take care of your business, take care of your life. You go to church to get equipped to go out into the world and take care of your life. So church is a feeding, fueling ground. And shout out to all the churches who are doing great, who are educating. We have a program where we are literally helping people buy homes. We've had several members to buy a home, which feels so, so good to know that we are doing our part in that area. And all the churches that are buying up the land, but have the land, but have the knowledge of how to use the land. Churches like West Angeles and First AME and different ones that have buildings all around there. They don't only have their church, they have housing, they have rehabilitation, they have all these things. And I think all churches, we should be the most powerful in our communities. We should have a big enough voice to say, we don't want this liquor store on the corner anymore, and it actually move. We should say we don't like the homelessness and go to our local government and say, let's bring in some housing for these people. This abandoned building, let's turn this into a place for homeless people to come in and be trained and be educated so they can be, you know, functioning members of this community. There's so much we can do. When I look at Dream Center in LA, they're doing great work. We should be doing the same.
Frank, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, being a corporate.
Yeah, I think more and more banks are understanding it, and it just all corporations, forget just banks, are all understanding that when we all do well, we can all do good by doing well, and vice versa. It is imperative that we start looking inward and figuring out what are opportunities, and then start to partner with churches, the faith-based community, and nonprofits, and realizing there's an opportunity here. I mean, when you start looking at different corporations like BlackRock, which is one of the largest investment organizations in the world, and they're telling you, we won't invest in your business, or we won't invest in your bank and give you billions of dollars if you don't have people of color on your board, if you're not a part of the community. That is a business imperative. But then you start to realize, wait a minute, if I made money here, I did well. I could do well in these communities, and it's great for my spirit and my heart that I'm seeing this kind of development. And Erica, you are exactly right. The banks, you can control as a church and say, I don't want that here, but I want to buy this building. I mean, Bishop Blake told us, hey, you're going to move your bank because I want to put a strip mall right where you were standing. What happened? We moved because he said so. There's a lot of things that you have the power to do. I think more and more churches need to be harnessing that power. Whether it be forming their own CDFIs, their own CDCs, that they can start building and developing affordable housing, not only for their congregation, but for the community. They should be looking, because Lisa, you just spoke about all this land. Imagine building an affordable housing where you're charging lower rent to some of your congregation, but that rent is not only paying off the loan, but that money is then put into the church and then allow you to do the kind of programs you want to do that I just heard, from everything from food pantries to education programs, small business. There is so much opportunity, but I think it takes all of us to sit down and have these kind of conversations and really kind of understand. And Erica, I'm going to let you go chime in back in. Oh, you're on mute.
I wanted you to educate me and tell me what a CDFI is. I
know. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it's what they call Community Development Financial Institution. So they are community-based, just like they're like banks, but they could do a little bit more in the sense that sometimes they have different underwriting criteria Some are really focused in for women. Some are really focused in for minorities, people of color. And they have this focus where they're doing different types of loans that would not see traditionally within a bank. And they don't think they're doing small deals. CDFIs are doing multi-million-dollar properties. When you're talking about buying a building, don't just look at a church. You want to look at a CDFI because they're sitting on money. I can give you stories. I mean, Wells Chase Bank and Wells Fargo, I think, made close to $400 million on each of their PPP.
Wow.
They didn't want to keep the money. They were like, oh, wait a minute. That doesn't look good. So what they did is they wrote checks to CDFIs. So all of a sudden now these CDFIs are sitting on cash. Well, cash sits on a balance sheet. That's a liability.
Yeah.
What you want to do is make it an asset, which is a loan. So they're looking to loan the money out in communities of color. So you should be looking at CDFIs.
Well, I need to talk to you, Frank. I need to know some CDFIs in the North Hollywood area. Listen, I'm gonna take advantage of all of this, Frank.
There are tons, and they're really good. And here's the funny thing: banks will normally not only support them on that end, but we will also, through our foundation, support them because they can do some of the deals that we can't do, and we want to see that happening. So there's an opportunity, and banks should be this group right here. The First Lady CDFI. I'm just throwing it out.
I like it.
Throw it out there. You form your own CDFI. And now you know people that should be having these loans, that could be doing good business and could make that return and make money and to make the church money and the CDFI. And you just keep rolling and rolling. I mean, there's little things like what we call, I think they're called lending circles, groups of folks that gets together and they loan that normally folks can never get. How do you rebuild credit? Well, wouldn't it be great if you start with some small loans that you can report? I mean, I've seen loans as low as $100. A bank won't do that.
Right.
But some of these other organizations do a loan as low as $100 at 0%, but we report it. And after a year, we have found some of these companies, 80% of the people who've gone through their program, over 700 credit score.
Wow.
You got to realize 35% of the people in certain communities are credit invisible. They've never used credit, never had it. And credit now has become a testament of your character.
Absolutely. Yes.
So why don't we get all of our folks to a 700 or better credit score? And why don't we do some other things like that? And so that's what a conversation, hopefully with a banker and maybe partnering with a CDFI and some other folks to just have this kind of dialogue and said, wait a minute, we could put you, let me talk to her. Nope, I got it. And you'll be surprised. People will be beating down your door.
Wow.
So, love to have this conversation. This is really what I wanted to hear and listen, because we can really start working in how do we bring the right team. And when I say team, I'm not talking about Union Bank. I'm talking about banks, CDFIs, CDCs. I'm talking about other technical assistance providers, because some of you are trying to do it yourself when these other folks can come and provide it for you. And why not have them pay you to do it? So I'm gonna just stop there because I'm gonna get on a rant here. I gotta get my soapbox.
Love it.
There's so much opportunity. We're seeing that through this pandemic, that there's so many organizations that are willing to help. I mean, look at that lady, Miss Scott, who was formerly married to the guy who owned. Yes. She gave away $5 billion. She just wrote. I mean, I got a call from somebody said, "Man, I just got $20 million." What?
Wow. What's the number? Do you have a number to that person?
I don't know. She's number. Yeah, she just did, I think, $5 billion in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Wrote checks.
Let's try and track her down.
Right?
Well, if I get the number, I'll give it to you. I know that you have to jump off, Erica. We really appreciate you. Thank you for serving as a co-host to the series, and you've been on most of the town halls. We really appreciate you. Congratulations on your new album.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
When does it drop? Tell us a little about it.
The song is called Positive. It drops July the 23rd. You know, in the COVID year, the word positive got negative connotation. And I want to take the word back, because to be positive changes your mindset. So it changes how you feel. It changes your level of expectation, and what you believe can be yours. And so I'm super excited about this song and about the video. And I can't wait for everybody to see it. Thank you so much, Lisa. You are doing an absolutely amazing job. I appreciate you for allowing me the pleasure of being a part of this amazing town hall series and meeting all these amazing women, a lot of which I already knew. But I feel, you know, this kindred connection with all these women who are trying to do the same thing, and that is better our churches and better our communities. So thank you so much, everyone. God bless y'all.
All right. All right. So Frank, you brought up a lot of stuff, a lot of great points in what you just said. And certainly there have been efforts to bring churches together to do things. And I think that you mentioned to me that you like working with the first ladies better than the pastors. So do you think this is a men thing? Maybe the men can't get together, but perhaps the women can?
You know, I've used this, and I've said this before. There's a saying that says, if you teach a man, you teach an individual, but if you teach a woman, you teach a nation. You know, we have work to do in this country and within our communities. So it just makes better sense. And I know that's, as a man, that's kind of hard to say. It makes better sense to talk to ladies and because they're going to go out and teach the entire community. My mom was a school teacher, so I know. And it's so, you know, I don't know if some people say nurturing or what. To me, it's a responsibility of all of us to learn. And women just do that better, and they also teach better, because they want people, and they're more caring about that, and I see that when, you know, it's amazing when you start talking to women and they start talking about business and everything else, and I see it with women entrepreneurs. You know, guys, you know, they want to talk about golf. You know, the women are networking. You know, it's different. And so we feel like this is the right thing to do, is to really try and have a conversation with the first ladies. We see the growth, we see the opportunity, and we're like, how can we help? How can we assist? And they're moving mountains to say, we got you time here, want to speak to some folks. And we know that it's so impressive, and we're like, this is the right road for us in our thought process. I mean, it may be different for others, but, you know, we feel like working with the first ladies is absolutely the right thing to do.
LaToya, I saw you shaking your head. I know that you were probably shaking your head because he mentioned golf, which is your husband's one of your husband's favorite things. But was there something else?
I just wanted to say all of this information that you are giving to us tonight is amazing, because like you said, a lot of us, even in programs that we're creating and that we're coming up with, we're trying to manage them ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're trying to pay for them ourselves. I have big ideas and big dreams, although it may be small now. I see the potential in the programs that we've started, and I know we're going to get there. But to know that these resources are available, which haven't been for a long time, they're presenting themselves more so now as come get it versus us trying to create them. So now that we know that they're available, it's time to release the trying to do it on your own. Now there's somebody that's willing to help you execute your vision and get it done. So that was my thing. So to know all of these resources are available, it's just about the work and getting them, you know, getting it in place and finding the right people to help you to possess these things. But in this short period of time, you have definitely given us a lot of information and the whereabouts of how we can get these things done. So thank you for that. And like Erica said, we have to have a conversation. Definitely.
Claire, I saw you shaking your head as well. Claire?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I thought so many amazing points were brought up. I wanted to highlight one thing that I heard Frank talk about, which was the underwriting process and access to capital. And historically, I think underwriting for loans has reflected a lot of the challenges and problematic aspects of our society: racism, classism, sexism, right? And so women of color, entrepreneurs, amazing dreams, business acumen, couldn't necessarily get that access to capital. And it was because of the underwriting process. And I think the opportunity we have as church leaders, as first ladies, as churches, is that we are connected to our community. As has been said, we know where those talented entrepreneurs are. We know about the dreams and aspirations. We know about, the potential that is just waiting to be invested in. And I think partnering with folks like Union Bank, we can really bring that talent forward and say, okay, let's talk about how we can provide some access to capital and de-risk this for a big bank. Let's do it through partnerships. Let's bring in CDFIs. But really, the role of churches is to say, look, we've got their back. Literally, we've got their back. We know who they are. We can vouch for them. We know their character. We know their heart. We know how they're growing. And so I think that actually plays a really important role in the underwriting process, right? Looking beyond the credit score and looking into the character of people. And it is our job to really voice that and lift it up so that money can flow to support our folks and to support especially those entrepreneurs in our community.
Yeah, but on top of that, we have a responsibility to make those people bankable, right? To get them to that 700 credit score, to get them to know their financials, because there was earlier talk of, there were certain folks that, when they tried to get the PPP, they didn't have their financials in order. And it were difficult we couldn't even process them. And some people didn't do that. I still remember as a young man that my dad, when I first told him I had, I've been with the Union Bank for 25 years. So my dad would say, when I told him I had a job at the bank, he kind of looked at me like, really? And I was like, what? And he said, son, the best Black business ideas die in the parking lots of banks. And he walked away. And I was like, whoa. And he said, they don't loan to me. They wouldn't loan to me. And, he grew up dirt poor in Baton Rouge. And I started to think about that. And you're right. So we have some education to do. We have some opportunity to do that. And we need people like you to say, look, we brought them in, and what you're going to do is you're going to vet us. You're going to vet the bank. You're going to vet the CDFI. You're going to vet the CDC, because you're not going to allow somebody to come into your church and talk to your congregation and talk to your friends and family who you don't believe in. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we're, doing everything we can. And if we can bank them, we're going to bank them. If we can't, we're going to say this company could do it. This company could, but we're not going to send them down the road to somebody who's a predatory lender. That's wrong. There's so much opportunity out there. You're seeing this infusion of capital that's coming in to these communities. I encourage us to think about getting that and utilizing that capital to allow us to create opportunities whereby we're creating wealth for not only ourselves, but our future generations, because that's when you see it. People are getting homes now. Normally folks get it around 26, the African-American around 37. So they got 11 years of, 11 years of equity. Look, if you live in LA, 2 years of equity is pretty good. 11, now you're creating wealth for yourself and your family. So we need to start thinking about that and how to take that opportunity to really start looking at building our own business and thinking about it. I remember talking to a group of Latinas, and they were talking about, they were making these things. And I said, you guys got a business. And they said, no, we don't. This is how we survive. It was a question of survival for them. But the business could have grown, and that would have never come up. And we have to figure that out, because we have folks that are going through that kind of mindset there. And it's, it's like, let's just sit down and have a conversation. But these CDFIs, some of these CDFIs should have a satellite location at your church. So
Frank, I think one of the big things for churches in the past has been, how do we approach corporate America? How do we approach people like you? How do we get to a CDFI? I don't think that they have thought of it as easy or something that would not be a challenge for them.
I think that the best thing to do, and I always tell people, invite me. Invite me to your location. Let me see what you're doing. Let me try to figure out what we can do. Because here's a trick. It's just because we're friends. If you were to apply for a foundation grant, pretty much anywhere, if it's unsolicited, it gets thrown in the trash. It's not going to go anywhere. And you could have a great program. But what happens is I'm not just saying me, but somebody in the bank. If you know somebody in the bank, you put their name as the referral, then an email is generated to me and say, do you know the program that Lisa Collins is running? Oh yeah, she's great. I've been there. I've done this. I worked with her on this. This is a great program. Then that kind of validates it. And then it gets more of a chance to get approved. So unfortunately, what we're missing is the fact of just the invitation. Just come on in the door. Let me show you around. Let me show you this is where we're working with the kids. We got an after school program over here. We got job training over here. ... And then I'm taking that back and I'm going, wow, you know what? We are looking to support job training right now. You need to apply. Because certain organizations, they're going to be focused in on certain things. Like we don't do dog shows. Although people will actually submit foundation requests asking for $500,000 to put on a dog show or, an equestrian event because they run it as a 501c3. No. You just want to have your pet Arabian horses there. We will look at actual programs, and some are higher for others. Like a bank, we're looking at, financial education, affordable housing, things of this nature. And some others would look at other things. What I'm encouraging you to do, invite. And then what we could do is we all know the other banks who have foundations and all the other corporations. We say, let me break some of my friends over. And then we just sit there and have a nice little dinner. I mean, if you have some crawfish etouffee, I'm good. And, and we just sit down and you're discussing what you're doing. And I think that starts a great conversation around your organization and how can we support you?
Well, we appreciate that. We're getting to time. We're coming to a close to our final installment, which is sad, but we'll be back. We'll do more. We'll get Frank to back us in some other programs with First Ladies. But I want to thank you all for joining us for what has been an extremely empowering series. Thanks to First Ladies Erica Campbell, Maisha Cheney, Jasmine Robinson, Deborah Morton, Shalonda Crawford, Clare Fox Anderson, LaToya Stewart, and Karen Brown, and most of all to the wonderful Frank Robinson of Union Bank for making this all possible. I want to remind people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then I want to remind you to also pick up a copy of LA Focus. And now as we close, may God bless and keep you all. And remember, you can do all things through Christ, who is our strength and salvation. Thank you all. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
We got your back.
Okay.